Hi, I'm Dan Grossman, arts editor with NUVO. I'm here with John Clark, artist, editor of pLopLop, longtime friend. In fact, John, why don't you go ahead and tell me, tell me the story of how we met.
Okay. Yeah, Dan, thanks. We were both booksellers, and there was a contest to have some poetry. So Dan entered it, and I think me and Kit we were booksellers, and we judged a thing, and we were like, this is really awesome. And for some reason, Dan had to recuse himself because it was a border-sponsored contest, right?
Right, and I think I entered before I actually became a bookseller with Borders.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, we're going back 20 years or more. But the happy thing is that allowed that poem to be in pLopLop. So pLopLop was a zine I started in about 1991.
Over the years into your becoming a visual artist, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How did
that process work?
I started doing caricatures of writers that I liked that had interesting faces, like Charles Bukowski and Kurt Vonnegut and Richard Brautigan were the main three, and there were people that did sort of fanzines about them, and they were looking for caricatures, so I started drawing more, and that's kind of how I really got involved in publishing that, and I always liked to sketch and write, and sometimes on the same piece of paper, so that's kind of what a zine can be. But yeah, and that led to going to readings and hosting readings throughout the city and just various places, and really just being an encouraging place for people to try new stuff. So pLopLop was that way in print, but also in performance and live, and it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So it was a good way to just meet people and, like I said, be involved in a community of creative people that just want to make things happen. Yeah. Well, that led out of sort of book selling too, because I started writing to some publishers like City Lights and Black Sparrow Press and New Directions, and saying, I want to do this display, can you send me some stuff? So they would send posters or just various things. Black Sparrow Press always has done a great job of doing fine printings and things like that. So that's kind of how I got started, just corresponding with the people that worked at those publishers. And then eventually I sent something to Bukowski, but all I had was like in care of the publisher. So each exchange we had, I got a little bit closer. So the next time I got his personal P.O. box, and then the next exchange, it was his street address, and I just sent self-addressed envelopes. And all he had to do was stick them in there, and you know, the letters he wrote, he always mentioned, thanks for putting in self-addressed envelopes, and this is, you know, an internationally known writer that's just almost like he's just starting out. It's like, oh man, I appreciate that, you know, and just sending good work. So, but there are other people too, like Gerald Lachlan and Edward Field.
Wanda Coleman?
Yes, Wanda Coleman, Eileen Miles. And some of those people were acquaintances, friends and things, but it was easy as just sending a letter and saying, hey, you know. Right. And we ended up doing chapbooks and things like that. So yeah, I brought some of them in just to look at, but various writers, and it was fun to just kind of get involved in publishing, because I've always loved small press. And just
published me too.
Yeah, here's Dan there. That's a super rare one, so if anybody tune into the online auction later, and it'll be pLopLop ephemera and other memorabilia.
Published in 1999.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a whole nother century ago.
Oh my God.
But it's something that I still love, and I love places you know, like Irvington Vinyl, and they do a lot of zine type of workshops and things, and encouraging people. So there's a lot of places like that that are still going, that are kind of carrying the torch, and who knows, we may do another issue of pLopLop. We just need the works.